Later on, after he goes missing, Interpol discover that he does go to see a doctor at the airport.
Okay.
And they talk to the doctor, and the doctor's account changes several times. Apparently, Lars had become extremely alarmed when someone entered the room while he was being examined. The doctor suggests that it might have been an airline employee. Another possibility is that it was just a construction worker. But regardless of the details, is that after he left the room, CCTV footage shows Lars running out of the airport and into the nearby countryside.
Weird.
Welcome to the Compendium, an assembly of vanishing acts and airport anomalies where the Lars Mittank tale takes off but never lands.
Ooh, sounds like something's gone missing.
Well, Adam, in today's episode of the Compendium, I'm going to be telling you about the extraordinary disappearance of Lars Mittank. He was just a regular young guy, he was good at sports, with a promising future ahead of him, but things take a mysterious turn when he goes missing from the airport after a trip to Bulgaria with his friends. Lars simply just vanishes as if he never existed. Have you ever heard of this story before?
Don't think I have, no. I've heard of luggage going missing at an airport, but a person?
Yeah, this is a person, unfortunately, not just your luggage. This story has made Lars probably the most famous missing person in history, which has so many fascinating facets to it, from the circumstances around his baffling disappearance to the theories behind what had happened to him, as well as the ongoing search that still continues today. So this is going to be a real interesting story this week.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of this guy, so he can't be that famous.
It's because you're not that online, right? If you were online enough, then maybe you would have heard of the story.
Yeah,
So that's on you.
That's my fault. It's my fault that I'm not on Reddit all the time.
But before we set off, shall we do introductions?
Sure.
For those of you tuning in for the very first time, I'm your host, Kyle Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Adam Cox.
You are listening to The Compendium, an assembly of fascinating and intriguing things. We are a weekly variety podcast where I, Kyle Reese, tell Adam Cox all about a topic that I think he'll find both fascinating and intriguing. From groundbreaking events to unforgettable people, we do this all in a simple 1 hour-ish episode, giving you just enough information to be the star of any social gathering. So, Adam, how are you this week?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you very much.
What are you bringing to the table for all the latest things?
All the latest things. Well, I wouldn't say what I have is brand new information, but it has happened a few weeks ago now, but it's new. It's news to me.
Give us an insight into that beautiful mind of yours.
I learned about a cow called Howdy Doody.
Right, this better be good.
So essentially, police got a report about a cow traveling in a car.
What kind of traveling?
This is the thing. When the police hear the report, they just think, okay, it's some kind of baby calf or whatever in the back of a car. Probably need to go check this out. It's not how you transport livestock.
Mm-hmm. This isn't going to be another one of those situations where in a previous All the Latest Things, a guy been stopped for speeding and he swapped the driver's seat with his dog.
No, not quite. The guy, he's never had any issues before. In this instance, the guy that's been transporting this cow around has had no issues previously and has been transporting the cow, because it's quite famous in this area in America, in Nebraska, at different fairs and trade shows and things like that. So it's a bit of a local celebrity.
What, the cow or the
cow.
man? Okay, I'm with you.
But the police weren't really aware exactly from the report. They just think it's a calf in the back of a car.
Yeah.
So when they turn up, they find a bull that's over 2,000 pounds traveling in a car. The guy had basically chopped his car in half, like the roof, got rid of that.
Okay.
Put the cow or the bull in the passenger seat and kind of reinforced the car with these wheels and suspension and everything else.
So I'm imagining this Thelma and Louise kind of style thingy where they're off to do some crime. Have you got a picture?
I'm going to show you a video. It's the best way to describe it.
Okay.
And maybe we should put the link in our show notes. This is an NBC report of the cow traveling in the car.
Okay.
Police division responded to a call of a man driving eastbound on 275
Jesus.
with a So he's cut half of the car, not like just the whole roof. It's just like the passenger side of the car that are hanging outside the car.
Inside the vehicle. As a result, the officer performed a traffic stop.
What?
And addressed some traffic violations that...
Oh my God, he's craps all over the car. Where's it?
The occupant of the...
Oh no! I'm glad I'm not cleaning that up.
Really, the Watusi Bull's name was Howdy Doody.
Howdy Doody.
And all the duties he did.
Oh, is that why he's called Howdy Doody? Jeez, God.
Yeah.
Damn.
Imagine driving along and like you're coming up to that car and you're about to overtake and you're like, what the hell?
And where was that? That was in Nebraska.
That's Nebraska, yeah.
Okay, not surprised there. That's kind of farm country, right?
Yeah, a place called Norfolk, apparently.
Oh, really?
The link.
Norfolk, Nebraska. Great. So this week for my All the Latest Things, I found this really interesting YouTube short by an American who had discovered that German students in their final year of school are studying concepts like the American dream, American individualism, and American exceptionalism in school for their equivalents of like their A1, A2 levels.
Okay.
But not in the way that you think. They're studying these ideals as examples of like modern day propaganda.
Oh, okay.
Now, listen to this quick little clip.
Do you know that German high school students learn about U.S. propaganda in their English courses in high school? Recently, a follower asked to send me a textbook that they use in German 11th to 13th grade English courses to study U.S. propaganda. So like in the United States, where we study German World War II propaganda, in Germany, they're studying current U.S. propaganda. They cover everything from U.S. exceptionalism to the American dream, and they show German students how U.S. citizens have been led to have a lack of self-critical awareness to how their ideals have failed. I didn't want to believe it at first, but if you Google the name of the textbook and the word Abitur, which is the final stage of German high school, it returns all kinds of study guides and notes. And what really shook me is that on one of these study guides, it says, the U.S. has become a wasteful consumer society of lonely individuals. So have you ever wondered how some people outside of the U.S.
That cuts deep.
That does cut deep. Here's the thing that really amazed me. We always talk about propaganda as if it's something that other countries do, like communist nations or Germany during World War II. But hearing that German students are actually analyzing concepts like the American dream as forms of propaganda just blows my mind.
That is because you associate the American dream as like this positive thing or this aspiring thing that Americans, perhaps a little bit outdated, but this thing that you aspire to do, to have a real nice house with the white picket fence outside, you got a wife, kids, everything, a flag out front, job, everything, own a gun.
But at the same time, when you look at examples of kind of Eastern European propaganda from pre-World War II, it's the same. It's these ideals. It's about the working man. It's about working together. It's about building a stronger economy. And these are all positive messages, but they're viewed through a very negative, oppressive lens. But because most of these ideals in the American kind of dream, let's call the propaganda, because that is what it is. That's my new way of looking at it. They're so woven into the fabric of American culture that most Americans don't see it as propaganda at all. It's almost like you are a fish and you don't realize that you're actually swimming in water.
Wow. Almost a bit like the Truman Show, a little bit.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I still don't necessarily disagree with the principles. Like you say, there is some positivity, but I guess a wasteful society, that seems like quite a harsh thing to say, because I can't imagine the modern civilization with plastics and everything. I imagine a lot of Western culture is wasteful.
It is true. And we take, we take the lead from the American kind of society. But when you think about the key messages in the American dream, this whole sense of individualism, right? And that you can make it on your own. And what that does is that puts the self first rather than the collective. And that can lead to kind of some unsatisfied, lonely people in the world. So Adam, it leaves me wondering, how do Americans actually view these ideas? Do they see this as a form of propaganda?
Yeah, I wonder. We do have some US listeners, so if you are listening, it'd be great to get your reaction on this.
I would love to know exactly what you guys think. So yeah, get in touch. Is this propaganda so ingrained in their lives that they can't even fathom the question of whether or not they are being persuaded by a propaganda machine? And also, is the American dream even relevant in today's society? When you look at some of the struggles that some ordinary Americans are facing in their day-to-day lives, I was reading the other day that one American couple, they have like a total household income of $100,000 a year, and they're still struggling to make ends meet. Does that mean that the American dream is becoming more and more unattainable?
Possibly. I mean, depends, I guess, maybe where they live, but the cost of living has affected a lot of people across the world.
Well, that's all the latest things for this week.
Cool. Should we get on with the mysterious disappearance?
Yeah, let's do it. So, what makes the disappearance of Lars Mittank even more unsettling is that his last moments were actually caught on security camera. Now, the footage shows him running out of the airport, seemingly in a state of panic. And then we just never see him again. And in a world where cameras are literally everywhere, the question is, how can someone just vanish without leaving any clues? So the tale of Lars Mittank becomes even more astonishing when you consider the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. Like, these murky details have thrust Lars into the global spotlight, captivating the interest of the internet detectives and even his own mother since 2014. What they've done is they've been diligently working to piece together exactly what happened to him, and the unsettling footage of Lars has just contributed to this notoriety, making him perhaps the most well-known missing person in history. But people are fascinated by the clues and are continually searching for answers, adding just more and more layers to this already bewildering story. So that's what today's episode is all about. I want to tell you a bit about what happened in the lead up and also after, because it's a really fascinating story. One of the issues that I had when researching the story was that it was really challenging due to the different accounts and various theories circulating within the online sleuthing community. However, it is worth noting that the very engagement of these internet sleuths has allowed Lars's mother to continue her own investigation, and without them, it just wouldn't be possible at all, regardless of how conflicting some of the information is.
It's quite impressive that these internet sleuths, they come up quite a lot in our stories, trying to uncover these unsolved mysteries or looking into things that they think there's more to the story than we're led to believe.
And actually, at the same time, a lot of these online sleuthing communities have really given police some real, genuine, solid leads to go on. And in some cases, they've even helped solve crimes. That Netflix documentary, Don't Fuck with Cats, where the whole internet sleuthing community helped find that guy through their investigations, all the way that they were able to triangulate the building versus the road where the sun was setting, and people just put all those clues together and they were able to find where he was living.
Wow, yeah. Where are these sleuths hanging out? I want to join some of these communities.
Well, a lot of them are hanging out on Reddit. There's a load of Facebook groups as well. So they're everywhere. And the thing is, though, they're not to be kind of reckoned with, really. It's a testament to the collective power of human beings, right? So these cases should be opened up to the wider community when they crop up, because they can really benefit a lot of these investigations.
True, but then I guess we saw with Elisa Lam, similar sort of thing, whereby actually sometimes they can hinder or misinformation might get out, and then they latch on to that. So
that's true, and that's possible. But I guess maybe it depends how the police orchestrate and what information they choose to release. Maybe that could help, like if they do it in a clever way. If it's managed.
Yeah.
Managed investigation.
Yeah.
Managed sleuthing.
That sounds like a good name for a new business.
I think so. The thing is, Lars's mother, she is just tirelessly working with these online communities to try and find any clues that will lead her to her son. And in many ways, she is the reason why the story still commands this much attention today, because she's so involved in these communities, and it's really inspiring. One of the issues with these online communities is that the minor details can be easily distorted, as you already mentioned. So someone might share a supposed fact that quickly gets warped and then is passed from person to person. And then before you know it, we have conflicting stories just everywhere, and it's difficult to separate fact from fiction.
Yeah.
But I guess it's better than nothing, in my view, until we can work out how an internet sleuth can help with proper investigation to be productive rather than causing some messiness there. But at the same time, it looks like they're helping to a degree as well.
Yeah, I think they've always got good intentions in this. They're not intending to mislead or go down a rabbit hole if they don't think it's true.
It's just pandering to human curiosity, isn't it, these stories? So I will do my best to present the story accurately, but it's important to remember that even if some of the details are fuzzy, there are enough verified facts to make this case really compelling. So people have become really obsessed with just minor details, but solving the mystery still eludes everyone. And the known facts are strange enough just on their own. So, Lars Mittank. He is a 28-year-old man from Germany. He became one of the most famous missing persons on YouTube after he disappeared on July the 8th, 2014. He was last seen in a resort town called Golden Sands in Bulgaria, which is located on the Black Sea. Now, Golden Sands appears to be this charming, maintained seaside town, which is really popular with like partygoers and young people. Now, Lars was born in February 1986 in northern Germany and was an only child. He was popular, he was athletic, and academically successful. And after graduating, he worked as an engineer at the GDF Suez power plant, which is roughly around about 100 miles from his hometown. And this is where he specialized in fixing small electrical machines and seemed to really enjoy his work. One of his main passions in life was soccer, in particular, his football team that he was really passionate about. So Lars had a deep love for football, and this might be linked to his mysterious disappearance. And we'll get onto that in just a moment. But a few years prior, his dad had suffered a stroke, leaving his mother as his primary caregiver. And Lars, being an only child, would travel nearly 100 miles almost every weekend where he lived to help take care of his dad. And this level of dedication is pretty rare for someone in the late 20s, you know?
Yeah, and also if there's no other sort of choice, and plus you do want to help your parents.
Yeah, you have a responsibility, don't you?
Yeah,
but it's not something that people would choose to do. It's almost like you feel like it's your responsibility, which is good. It's part of being a responsible adult.
Yeah.
Eventually, his mum persuades him that he needs to take a holiday. And so he decides that he's going to take a 2-week holiday with 5 of his friends to the Golden Sands resort in Bulgaria. So the Golden Sands is well known as a hotspot for young people, offering all sorts of inclusive deals and abundant opportunities for partying. And Lars, according to his friends, was the life of the party. He went on the trip with around 5 of his friends, 2 of whom were his old high school mates. There was a guy called Tim Schold and Paul Roman. And they did the usual holiday activities like beach trips, and they played soccer, they hang out at bars and things like that.
Lads.
Lads on tour. One particular point to note is that Lars's eating habits during the trip, unlike his friends who were taking full advantage of the all-inclusive resort, Lars seemed to be kind of like on a health kick. And mostly he just ate like light foods like soup and salad and fruit. While some people online made a real big deal about this, and they kind of instigated that maybe this was a clue to his mental state at the time, or maybe he was depressed or something. But I think simply it was just more the fact that he was on a mindful diet, because he was really passionate about football and he played for his local football team. And I think he just generally was on just a health kick.
Just being quite dedicated. I mean, I find it quite hard. Like when you're trying to be healthy and you've got all this food in front of you, I think, if anything, you end up overeating because you're like, I'm going to use this opportunity to just eat what I want, drink what I want. And then you're like, oh, I feel sick.
And it takes a lot of dedication and discipline to maintain a healthy diet when you're on holiday.
Yeah, and especially when it's all inclusive, you haven't got to pay extra. Why wouldn't you have a few extra beers?
Exactly. When it's free, it makes it even harder, right? So I don't really believe that this was a clue to his mental state at the time. I just think he was just on a health kick. So the week was mostly uneventful for a lad's holiday until the second to last day, when they decided to go and watch a World Cup match. So the World Cup was happening in Brazil at the time, and they went to a bar to watch Costa Rica playing against the Netherlands. And the bar was just, of course, as you can imagine, just filled with soccer fans from different countries and different clubs. So during the match, there were some tensions with a recent group of high school graduates who were fans of a rival kind of team that the boys were fans of. And of course, words were exchanged, and some say there was a physical fight, although it's not clear what exactly happened. But it just wasn't a major issue. Maybe there was a bit of a scuffle, they pushed each other, shared some words, etc. But nothing major happened there.
Sure, pushed over a table and glasses, like, whoa.
So after leaving the bar, the group went to a McDonald's with an open-air window, and Lars, who was focusing on his health, chose not to eat, and he just stood aside while his friends placed their orders. And when his friends turned around after getting their food, Lars was just gone, and they didn't see him for the rest of the night. They weren't that concerned, really. They just thought that maybe he had met someone, so they weren't really in a panic.
At McDonald's, though?
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't really be that concerned if one of my mates just disappeared.
I guess these are guys, and maybe, they're not in the same sort of ways. Maybe like a group of female friends.
Yes.
They'd be like, where did she go? Who's taken her? They'd be like, oh, he's probably just gone back to the hotel room or whatever.
Yeah. When Lars does show up again, he says that he's been attacked by 4 Bulgarian guys.
Oh, I take what I just said back.
Now, according to him, one of them threw a punch, and when he ducked, he got hit in the ear. And Lars was convinced that the boys responsible were the ones that he had an altercation with, even though it wasn't them who attacked him. Because when they were in the bar, one of them commented on how easy it is to find someone to pay to attack someone in Bulgaria.
Oh, right. So these guys in a bar may have paid someone else to go attack Lars.
That's what he seems to think, just based on the experience and what they had said.
That seems so odd.
It does seem odd. Maybe they had spotted him after the bar. I don't know, they paid someone. Hey, here's €100, go beat them up. I don't know.
That's common in Bulgaria. How weird.
So Lars showed up with an ear injury and he decides to go see a doctor. Now, the specialist diagnoses him with a ruptured eardrum and recommended surgery. Now, Lars chose not to have the procedure done locally, but that he was going to fly back to Germany instead. So he was given a strong dose of antibiotics, around about 500 milligrams. And some people on the internet believe that the antibiotics might explain Lars's unusual behavior, which we'll discuss later. However, based on the information available, antibiotics don't generally have any major side effects. At the most, they might cause an upset stomach, and there are rare occasions that it can cause kind of like dark, large patches on the skin. But it's unlikely that the antibiotics had any impact on his behavior after the fight.
No, yeah, normally they advise don't take antibiotics with alcohol because it voids the effects. And yeah, you take antibiotics with like before or after food.
And he wasn't really drinking either during the holiday. He was on this health kick. So I don't imagine that he would have gone and had 10 pints after taking the antibiotics.
Doesn't seem like that based on how he was.
So Lars's friends planned to stay with him, but he insisted that they leave. So they caught the original flight out while Lars stayed behind due to obviously the concerns about his ear. Mm-hmm. So he was really weary of flying because of the potential effects of air pressure changes on his perforated eardrum. Mm. Now, it's unclear whether or not the doctor originally warned him about this, but Lars felt that it would be a problem.
Yeah, because I think I've been ill before traveling on a plane, and you have like an ear infection, and that can really hurt for like a week or two afterwards. Mm-hmm. So I can totally get why you'd want to do that.
Here's the thing though, having a perforated eardrum, the National Health Service, the NHS website, suggests that flying might actually be more comfortable and not more dangerous if you have this condition. So it's understandable that Lars, not being obviously a medical expert, would be concerned because he doesn't know this information. It is unfortunate though that after seeing two medical professionals in Bulgaria, neither of them told him that flying would be the better option. They just didn't give him that option, yeah.
I'm surprised that it would be better. I thought common knowledge was if you've got something wrong with your ears, you try and avoid it because it just hurts, or at least it just makes it worse. It doesn't necessarily cause it to get better.
I mean, communication between Lars and the specialist was quite strained anyway. So it's a bit unclear whether or not it was a doctor or Lars who decided that he shouldn't fly. Mm-hmm. But Lars's mother, Sandra, mentioned that the specialist wouldn't communicate with Lars in English at all. And Lars actually felt like he was being mocked by the specialist. So interestingly, Sandra thought that this was significant because Lars doesn't usually use the word mocked, the German word for mocked. Despite this, though, Lars manages to get the antibiotics from the doctor. But yeah, so they clearly didn't tell him that he shouldn't fly. Yeah. So when Lars's friends flew back to Germany, they left him alone in Bulgaria. But they weren't too worried about him at the time because when they left, he just seemed fine. Like, he wasn't acting strange. If he had been, they probably wouldn't have left. Mm-hmm. They would have probably set off alarm bells if he was acting strange, but none of that happened. And so, according to them, Lars appeared relaxed and in good spirits, so they left.
Okay.
The fact that it was also summer made it hard for Lars to find a hotel room because most places were fully booked. So he ended up staying at the Hotel Color Varna. Now, this is a rather seedy location and was usually frequented by drug dealers and sex workers. Unfortunately, this was the only place that was available. As for that night, not much is known except for some phone calls and texts that Lars exchanged with his mother. Mm-hmm. We do know that Lars was uncomfortable when the hotel staff photocopied his credit card. Now, around 11 p.m., he calls his mum to ask her to block the card because obviously he's worried about potential fraud. He just figures that he can unblock the card when he gets home. And later, Lars makes another unsettling phone call. This time, he's left his hotel room and he says that he's on a hill, possibly in danger of falling. So he mentions that there are 4 men that are chasing him and their intention is to harm him. And he asks his mum not to call back so that his phone won't ring and therefore give him away.
So he's out at night on a hill.
That was my understanding of it. But that sounds bizarre, right? How did he get into that sticky situation? So later, he texts his mum and asks her about the name of the antibiotics that he's taken. He had consumed 3 pills at this point, and it seems that he was worried about how it might be affecting him.
Okay.
So the next morning, his mum books a flight for him to come home. She doesn't hear back from him for a long time, but when she finally does, she feels a sense of relief. So in the story, Lars plans to go to the airport and he needs 500 euros. Now, he suggests using Western Union to his mum, who's never heard of it before. But because Lars explains it clearly, his mum thinks he's thinking clearly and isn't worried about him at all. Mm-hmm. Now, Lars ends up at the airport medical center for some reason. It's unclear if he's there because his mum wanted him to get checked out or if it was something that was required.
Okay.
But things get confusing here because Lars then calls his mum to say that he shouldn't fly or drive even though he hasn't even seen a doctor yet.
So we're not quite sure why or how he's got there, but it sounds like he hasn't seen anyone and he's come to this conclusion that he shouldn't fly or drive.
That's right. And then also the weird instance where he thinks that he's being pursued by someone on the hill and then calls his mum and asks about the ingredients in the antibiotics makes me question whether or not he's having some kind of strange episode of some kind.
It sounds like that so far, but...
Yeah, it sounds like paranoia is setting in.
Yeah, definitely that.
So he's worried about these men chasing him.
Mm-hmm.
He's worried about the ingredients of the antibiotics, which could be a result of why he's panicking. And also he's saying that he shouldn't fly without getting a second opinion. Later on, after he goes missing, Interpol discover that he does go to see a doctor at the airport.
Okay.
And they talk to the doctor, and the doctor's account changes several times. Apparently, Lars had become extremely alarmed when someone entered the room while he was being examined. And it's not entirely clear who this individual was. The doctor suggests that it might have been an airline employee assigned to guide him to the plane. Another possibility is that it was just a construction worker. But regardless of the details, is that after he left the room, CCTV footage shows Lars running out of the airport into the nearby countryside.
Weird.
So we're left uncertain about what exactly happened to him in that medical center. But regardless of the details, what we do know for sure is that Lars ran out of the airport. This part of the story is well documented because it's available for everyone to be able to see on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So that CCTV footage of him running out, that's the last
time.
Wow.
So this video has contributed to making Lars one of the most famous missing persons on the internet. And the footage reveals how odd the whole scenario is. Like Lars initially enters the airport carrying a backpack and a weekend bag. And then later we see him just running at full speed before eventually turning into a slow jog. Should we have a look at that video?
Yeah, let's do that. I think maybe I don't know if it will, but it might make more sense. Okay, there's Lars, I'm assuming, in a yellow t-shirt, orange backpack, walking into the airport. He's being directed to...
Looks like he's asking for directions, doesn't it?
Yeah, someone's like guiding him. I'll go down this way, wherever that is. Oh, and now he's running full pelt out of the airport. And he's outside the airport and he's turned from like a sprint to a sort of a slower jog. Oh, but now he's running a bit faster again when he's outside the airport. And now he's walking quite calmly. And he's on the outskirts. There's a path. Yeah, he's right outside the airport. So it looks, he's going like closer to fields. But now he's picked up speed again. So he's kind of going backwards and forwards in speed. But that's weird.
It's strange, isn't it?
And so that last footage there where he's really in the distance, that's the last time he's seen alive.
That's right, yeah. So what you're seeing in the background there is him entering into a sunflower field. And that's the last time we see him. So in the airport footage, you see him sprinting and then he's walking and then he's jogging. And then once he's outside, he kind of like pauses, he stops. And then his manner in the way that he's running suggests that he isn't being chased.
And I don't know, because he kind of changes between a jog to a walk and then a bit of a jog. So it's almost like he's trying to get away. And then when he thinks the coast is clear, he calms down. It's not like he's running and like as fast as he can to get like away.
But he's also not looking behind him as if someone's chasing him. If he was being chased, then he would be looking behind him, right?
Almost feels like, has he put on a bit of a show?
I don't know. It's just so bizarre. The manner that he was running suggests that he isn't being chased to me. And it's not like he's running for his life either, because otherwise there wouldn't be that mix of jogging then running and then stopping. It's a real odd sort of run as well. It's as if he's like in a desperate need of the toilet. Do you know what I mean? But then the toilets are inside.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's kind of like, oh, he's just caused a scene at a restaurant. He's quickly trying to get away and then acting casual.
Oh, I don't know. It's just bizarre. It's clear that this is someone who's not potentially thinking clearly.
It does actually remind me of the Elisa Lam video. I know I bring it up again, but that kind of where it's discovered that obviously she hadn't been taking her medication and she was having a mental episode. I think that's the right way to phrase it. It kind of reminds me of this a little bit. So maybe something isn't quite right with his mental ability like we first thought.
So in the doctor's office, he apparently said that I don't want to die here. I have to get out.
Wow.
So whether that's true or not is up for debate. Sandra, his mother, who took it upon herself to investigate in Bulgaria, said that she saw the footage and it differed from what the police had. Because what was released that we saw isn't the whole footage. There's a lot more to it. So according to her, when Lars runs out of the actual airport, he stops. He then checks his pockets to like make sure if he's got his passport and his wallet, which he then realizes that he's left in the airport, right? But then he seems to look around as if kind of like deciding which way to go. And then he then just legs it. So if you were running for your life, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be like kind of like gauging, getting your bearings.
So this is the additional footage that his mother had seen, him checking his pockets and then making this decision of where to go outside the airport.
Yeah.
So we don't know why that wasn't released, but it just wasn't.
It just wasn't released part of the investigation.
Fine.
In the footage as well, we also see that when he stops to check his pockets, he passes within like 20 feet of two police officers. So if he was in danger, that's the safe haven, right?
So that is really weird then. Why was he not, wanting to tell them if he felt like his life was at risk?
But that suggests that he wasn't at risk.
And so that kind of, when I said, that makes me think when I said before that this almost feels like a bit for show, that running out and then calming down and then slightly jogging and stuff.
Do you think?
It almost feels like he's put on a bit of a show.
Interesting. But for what reason?
That I don't know.
Eventually, he's presumed to have just crossed the fence and then vanishes into a field of tall sunflowers. Tall enough to obviously hide him completely, but it's at this point that he's just never seen again. So Lars's mother hired a Bulgarian lawyer to investigate her son's disappearance. Now, Germany also got involved through Interpol, but they just didn't make any progress whatsoever. And some people think that the Bulgarian government were trying to keep the story quiet so that it wouldn't hurt like tourism in the area, which is understandable, but it just means that we don't get to find out what happened to Lars.
Yeah, there's no closure.
Yeah, and the thing is that when you have a missing persons situation like this, it's important to get the message out there as quickly as possible. What's really captivating about the story is that Lars's mum didn't just rely on the authorities. She took matters into her own hands, and over the years, she's gotten various leads. People have contacted her claiming that they might have found Lars, and she would go off and check it out for herself, right? While none of these leads, though, turned out to be her son, she did discover 15 other Germans living in Bulgaria, and some of them had issues like addiction or mental illness. And amazingly, she manages to reunite some of these people with their families.
Oh, so these are missing people?
These are other missing people that people have suspected of being Lars.
No way. And she's helped bring them back. She's found other people. So this has helped bring attention, maybe not necessarily to their cause, but in a roundabout way.
Sadly, some of them didn't want to go back to Germany, but the ones that do, she's been able to reunite them with their families. The fact is that doing this gave her hope. It made her think that even though the odds are slim of finding him alive, because like we said, it's really important to get the message out there. If you don't find a missing person within a set period of time, the chance of finding them alive diminishes. But the fact that she was finding all these other German citizens living on the streets of Bulgaria has given her hope.
Yeah.
So she just continues to search even today, holding out hope. What struck me about this is that in Germany, only about 3% of missing person cases go unsolved a year. And I would have thought that would have been way higher. So they're really normally quite good at finding missing people, especially if you are a German citizen.
Yeah, but in this case, Lars is one of those 3%, at least at the moment.
I guess so,
Yeah.
But I guess that also gives her hope as well, knowing that the chance of finding a missing person is high.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sandra frequently uses Instagram to search for Lars. And when someone contacts her with a potential sighting, she would inquire about the location and the timing. And she would then post the information on Instagram and then ask anyone if they could go out and verify the sighting by getting more pictures of that person who was typically often homeless.
Yeah.
In one instance, a man resembling Lars appeared in Brazil. And he does look similar. It's really uncanny. But he just kind of like was more rugged and he had a beard. However, it was later revealed that the man was not Lars, but rather a guy called Anton. And he'd been missing from British Columbia and was reunited with his family after 5 years. And the way that he had went missing is that he had hitchhiked and walked all the way from British Columbia to Brazil.
What? Why?
I don't know.
Madness.
He was just like hanging around Rio de Janeiro during like a period of mental instability. But like they found him and they reunited him with his family back in Canada.
But okay, so that explains why. Because I was thinking, well, there are phones along the way.
Sure. But he's obviously having a mental episode, isn't he?
Yeah.
So the theory that seems more plausible to me involves the ear injury accompanied by an untreated head injury, possibly a concussion that he maybe got when he got jumped, right? And this could explain the erratic behavior and those feelings of paranoia. And once he found himself with no money and no phone or passport, he might have potentially lost his memory and just ended up getting lost in Bulgaria, which is a good thing because it means he's out there, right?
That does make sense to a degree because before he went to the hospital, he thought it was dangerous for him getting on a plane. So this paranoia had already kicked in. He thought he'd maybe seen men chasing him, which maybe is linked to the people that attacked him in the first place. On the flip side, you could say actually maybe he is still being chased. And so therefore he did like fear for his life, but then that doesn't explain the way that he ran away.
Actually, I think this theory could shed light on why he acted so strangely, like running through the airport and into the sunflower field. I think that does explain it potentially if he is feeling paranoid.
The only other thing I thought of, but probably can't prove that, is the medication that he was given. Was it actually antibiotics? Was he taking 3 pills at that time? Was it something else that did make him go a bit crazy?
I think when he called his mum and gave her the name of the medication, that would have been branded on the box. So I don't think there would have been anything else, but maybe he just had an adverse effect to those drugs.
Possibly.
According to everyone that he knew, he had a really great life. He enjoyed his job. He loved living in Germany. So it doesn't seem like he's the kind of guy that would want to run away.
And it was described as a life and soul of the party, you said, but he wasn't necessarily drinking or indulging too much. But was the rest of the time, do we know that, was he like all okay throughout the rest of the holiday?
No alarm bells were rung amongst his friends.
Okay.
And like we said, if there had been, they wouldn't have left him.
Yeah.
Right? Another angle to consider is the possibility that he felt threatened while in the hotel. Maybe perhaps by people who were trying to rob him or extort him. This could explain the comment that he made about not wanting to die in the airport, and also could potentially explain him asking his mother to send 500 euros via Western Union. However, the 500 euros were found untouched in his account, so a robbery seems quite unlikely. What I find truly perplexing, though, is that the way that he left the airport, like he left everything behind. And that leads me back to the idea of a traumatic brain injury. But then the question remains, what happened to Lars? Did he die somewhere in the woods and he's yet to be found? Or did he manage to wander into town and start a new life? And the theory of the brain injury seems to me to be the one that makes the most sense when you try to unravel this complex mystery.
Yeah, it does.
His mum still thinks that he is out there and she's chasing every single clue that she can to find him. One idea is that he may have just lost his memory and that's why he hasn't reached out. Another theory, though, suggests that he was telling the truth about being followed. And given that Bulgaria has an issue with human trafficking, it is possible that Lars could have been targeted. Although these problems typically only affect local Bulgarians and not really tourists, and it's typically the local Romani people.
I would have thought so, females or children, because they're easier to kidnap.
I mean, it is something to consider, though, but I think that is unlikely. Now, Sandra's likely thought about all of these possibilities, especially when she doesn't have the closure that she needs. And in such cases, your imagination would often just kind of wander to the darker scenario. So she's probably thought about this. There was one promising lead, though, at this point, and that was a trucker. And he had claimed that he had given a hitchhiker a lift to Brandenburg, and then later realized that when the story finally did break, that it was probably Lars.
Right.
And unfortunately, Sandra never managed to reconnect with the truck driver at all. But she has asked people to keep an eye out for Lars in the Brandenburg area. It's contributions from online detectives and curious minds that just keep Sandra going and helping her to maintain the hope that Lars will be found alive one day. In Dusseldorf, another man who looked like Lars was identified, and within 2 hours, thanks to the quick efforts of online sleuths, a woman had posted a picture of the homeless man, and within that short time frame, someone found him and confirmed that, sadly, it was not Lars.
That's really quick.
Lars. But yeah, that's the point, that this community is really active, and within 2 hours from across the world, all you need to do is just post a picture, ask for confirmation, someone can go out there and they can then verify yes or no.
I guess that's one of the pluses of social media now. You can do all that. In this instance, it can be really valuable.
Yeah. Another theory suggests that Lars might have been a drug mule. Some people think that he panicked, thinking that he might be caught, and then just ran out the airport. However, this theory loses strength when you consider that no drugs were found amongst any of his belongings. Although some say that his behavior, like running out of the airport and jumping over the fence, indicates that he might have been on drugs. Maybe it was in his system. But his actions and his personality doesn't really necessarily fit the typical pattern that you'd expect from a drug mule either. But who am I to say what that pattern would be? But I just don't buy that theory. And so that's the story of Lars Mittank.
There just feels like so many scenarios of what could happen, yet so many unanswered questions. We're sat here thinking it feels like, based on the events leading up to his disappearance, that maybe that incident at the pub or whatever, and the impact on his eardrum, maybe it offset his mental stability. But that's the only logic that we've got here to suggest why he ran away. But all sorts of things could have happened. He could be out there on the streets. He could have got himself into trouble, climbed into something that was actually quite dangerous and got hurt. We just don't know where he is.
Yeah, it's really sad. I hope they do find him. I genuinely hope. I hope he's somewhere out there and he's safe and he's mentally sound. I don't think that's going to be likely. I think it's more likely that he is out there, he's lost his memory, he's got some amnesia. But I hope that is the case, because the alternative is that, sadly, he's dead.
Yeah, and it sounded like he had a good relationship with his mother. So to not make contact with her, there has to be a very good reason why.
That's right. I agree with that. So shall we run the outro?
Okay.
And so we come to an end of another episode of The Compendium, an assembly of fascinating and intriguing things. If you found today's episode both fascinating and intriguing, then we urge you to subscribe and leave us a review. And don't just stop there. Schedule your episodes to download automatically. Doing this not only ensures you're always in the loop, but also boosts our visibility, helping us to serve you even more captivating tales straight to your ears. You can also follow us on Instagram at The Compendium Podcast, or visit our home on the web at thecompendiumpodcast.com. We release new episodes every Tuesday, and so until then, remember, not everyone who wanders into an airport is lost, but Lars might be. See ya.
See ya.